Hey everybody, welcome to Just the News. I am Carrie Sheffield and excited for our guest here today. He is Mr. John Schnatter. He is the founder of Papa John's. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Carrie. Thanks for having me.
So let's get right into what's happening in the news right now with coronavirus. You obviously are an expert in the restaurant industry, in getting people to gather. What's your advice to small business owners and people working in the restaurant industry about how to handle all this?
Oh my gosh, I have such a heart for small business because I started out as a small business owner, and tenacity. Never give up. This is very difficult. I mean, when we were in the broom closet, it was hard, but at least we could sell pizza. This is kind of start, stop, and it's been really tough on small business. But I think this time you level set. You get back to the basics, you get a game plan, and you get prepared for when the big day happens and we are back to fully open, that you can take advantage of the situation. So never give up. Just never give up.
Yeah, easier said than done. As far as, you obviously grew from that broom closet to a multi-billion-dollar empire, publicly traded. Do you think there's a double standard in how government and some of the governors are treating big business versus small business? Because, for example, a lot of people say, well, the big box stores were allowed to remain open, but the small guys had to be shut down.
Well, I think that our leaders are doing the best they can with the information they have. There does seem to be some disconnects on some businesses seem to get away with things that others don't, but at the end of the day, as long as everybody's trying to do the right thing, and your point is we built a big company because we had great people, we were a great team, and we thought like a small business. We thought like an entrepreneur. We thought about creativity, innovation, getting better, and for these small businesses to make it and to get back, under their feet underneath them and to be strong, they got to be innovative, they got to be creative, and they got to never give up.
Mm-hmm. How do you advise small business? Because people do have influence on their government. Government leaders do listen to them. What's that fine line that you recommend as far as small business owners putting their voices to be heard to say, hey, we think this might be too onerous, or hey, we might need some more protection? What's your advice in terms of interacting with government on the COVID issue?
Well, I think the small business is the heartbeat of America. I mean, everything starts with small business. So they're 80% of the jobs and probably 99% of the innovation. So I think if they put their heart together, you have certain organizations like the National Restaurant Association, et cetera. But I think you get organizations and you speak your mind and you try to make sure things are a level playing field. And right now, at times they're not. But I think over time, if they do put their best foot forward and they tell their story, I think they'll have a voice.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned the level playing field. Do you think that small businesses are at a disadvantage when it comes to regulation or just things? Obviously, they're smaller. They don't have the scalability. But what sort of strategic advantages would a small business have that maybe a bigger business doesn't have?
Well, I think it depends on their environment. If you're in an environment where government is heavy on regulation and the oversight is kind of arduous, it's going to be tougher on a small business. If you're in an environment where it's pro-business, less regulations, and that's what I like about this administration. I mean, Trump, being a businessman, he's pro-business, and he believes in the entrepreneur spirit. He believes in hard work. He believes in saving. He believes in getting ahead, and he believes that less regulation is better. And that's the one thing this administration has done, is they've gotten away from a lot of the regulations, and I think that sets example for the whole country and for cities that are throughout the states to lay off small business and let small business do what they do, and that is thrive and be entrepreneurs and get ahead.
Mm-hmm. So let's move to the president, because you do sit on the advisory board for his 2020 campaign. You're offering your perspective as a business leader. I want to get your take on what's happening with Goya Foods and the CEO, who in a non-political capacity, he was there simply as a guest of the White House for President Trump. He had been a guest of President Obama previously, just in more sort of a ceremonial aspect. And yet he's being criticized for being diplomatic to President Trump and had very much done the same thing with President Obama. What would be your advice from a CEO perspective on how the Goya CEO can basically handle this?
Well, politics really should stop at the cash register. It should stop, and it's infiltrated sports and CEOs, et cetera. So I think the political part of it should be up to the people, not be brought into the middle of the situation. Rob Lentz, the CEO of Papa John's, he's on the task force for Trump, not me. So he's making a political statement that I'm not sure if I was in his shoes, I would do that. With that being said, I think this is a very good president when it comes to being pro-business. As far as the reaction that the media had to the situation you referred to, when he visited Obama, he got a attaboy. When he visited Trump, he got murdered. So there is a double standard with the media, and there is a double standard that is no good. I think he should stand up for what he believes in, and if he wants to praise the president and he believes in America and he thinks it's a great country, I think he should be able to speak his mind. Everybody on the left keeps preaching diversity, but unless it's diversity of thought, diversity of philosophy, or diversity of ideology, and if you don't think a certain way, then you get persecuted. That's not diversity.
Well, and as I understand it, also for him, he is the founder, or he's the CEO of the largest Hispanic-owned food company in the country, as I understand it. So again, to the diversity question, it seems to be that he isn't just participating in the right form of language. But I want to talk more about that kind of media double standard from your perspective as a CEO. Do you think CEOs are treated differently in certain political environments generally versus others? And what advice do you have for CEOs who are navigating the way things have become so politicized?
Yeah, entrepreneurship and creativity and innovation come from independent critical judgment, which is you think for yourself. You believe in yourself, you have independent critical judgment. You kind of think out of the box, you think differently, otherwise you wouldn't come up with a better mousetrap, a better product, better innovation, better technology. And what the media is trying to do, the mainstream media, is they're trying to paint you in a corner that if you don't believe 100% in their ideology, then they persecute you, they attack you. And I think that's extremely unhealthy for the country, and I think it's a really bad path for the CEOs to go down. And I think they're scared. I know in my situation, at first when this all went down and they fabricated this, I thought, okay, I just had a board of directors that are a bunch of cowards. As I dug in this and I learned really what happened, not only were they cowards, they were just dishonest. And so we just, it sets a bad example for our young people. I mean, nothing sells like the truth. And, at the end of the day, always do your best and be honest. And when you are forced to think a certain way and act a certain way and you can't do the right thing, then that's problematic.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting that you said that you think the CEOs are scared of the media or maybe feel intimidated, because I recently had a conversation with the CEO of Gallup. Gallup is obviously a very well-known polling organization, and he said Gallup has been tracking media perception, or how Americans view the media. And he said that since the 70s, they've seen this 30, 40-year decline in trust in the media, and it's predominantly felt by Republicans and conservatives, that trust and the ability to believe that the media is trustworthy is very, very low among conservatives and Republicans, and that it's been going down and down consistently over the last 40 years. Why do you think that is for a lot of conservatives as far as trust in the media?
I think that the left elitist and the media thinks the public's stupid. I think the public's actually very smart. I think they're very perceptive. When I was growing up, journalistic integrity was critical. That has gone so far out the door that it's kind of laughable. What's amazing about the mainstream left media is we all know it's fake news. I mean, they make things up, and it's not honest. And two is it's not only fake, it's biased. What's truly amazing is not only is it fake, not only is it's biased, everybody knows it's fake news. I mean, everybody knows the media is not credible. What's further even unbelievable is it's fake, it's biased, everybody knows it's biased, and the left media knows they're biased, and they know it's fake, and they know everybody out there knows it's fake, and they do it anyway. That's what's pretty amazing. But at the end of the day, the truth comes out, and you can't fool, the public. They seem to be intelligent. They seem to have a pretty good grasp on the nonsense. And you basically got a president who, as far as I know, he's one of the few honest people in Washington. You take Mitch McConnell, he's worth $50 million. Nancy, the House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, worth $120 million, and they both make $200,000 a year. How do they get to be worth tens of millions if they weren't on the take? And so Trump, being a billionaire, he doesn't need to be for sale. He can shoot it straight and play it straight. And so he's probably one of the few people, if not the only people in D.C. that's into politics that is honest.
Mm-hmm. I think Pelosi's, some of the net worth is from her husband and his business work to some degree. But I hear your point. And
but the second and third cousins are both rich too, so there's a trickle down.
Sure. Well, and the Pelosi family has been in Baltimore politics for a long time too. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. But yeah, so I just in closing, kind of want to get your thoughts looking at 2020 with the campaign. Trump is behind Biden in polls. A lot of people do say, well, he was behind Hillary at the same time in 2016, and look what happened. Do you think things are different now, though, in 2016? Do you think that those who are supporting Trump are more open about it, and therefore the polls are more accurate? What do you think we're going to see for 2020?
I think the distinction is quite obvious. If you want New York or Baltimore or Chicago, then you go left. If you want Fort Worth or part of Miami, Florida, or some of the more stable economies, you go right. So can you imagine if the whole country was like New York and Chicago? We'd have a total mess. And I think Trump makes that distinction pretty clear.
Well, and he's someone as a New Yorker who just fled New York himself for Florida. So.
He's a slow learner, but he finally came around. Arithmetic's not of opinion. I think he made a good choice.
Great. So as far as I assume you're voting for Trump, what's your pitch to people to convince them to vote for Trump?
I think people can make up their own mind. I don't want to tell anybody how to vote. I think it's a personal thing. I think that this is probably the hardest working president we've ever had. He understands business. He understands entrepreneurship. Can you imagine if we had somebody in the White House that was making decisions right now on politics instead of what's right for Americans, what's right for America? It'd be pretty scary. I think he makes the right decision for the right reasons. I think he puts his heart and soul in it. I think he puts all the cards on the table. I think he listens and he makes the decision. And, I think he's a leader. There's no doubt he's a leader.
All right. Well, John Schnatter, we appreciate your time. Appreciate it. Thanks for joining us here on Just the News.